And we're
Are we
live.
live? We're live. Welcome everybody to Photography and Friends weekly live stream. Will Carnan here. We got Phil and Sam. Is it how it's presented as we're looking at it? Because Phil is to my right, that way, and Sam is to my left. Let us know where you're watching from, what kind of camera you're using. We want to know where you're tuning in from because we have people all over the world. I think we're going to be monitoring a lot of the Q&A and the questions off of the Photography and Friends YouTube live channel. However, you can comment through Facebook, through my channel, and I think Phil's channel. Did you say?
Yep.
So we'll kind of keep an eye on that, but most of the comments go over to the Photography and Friends channel on YouTube, and that's where we'll be trying to do the best. How are you two doing, Sam? How you doing? That way, and Sam
I'm
is
doing
too.
well.
Good. Well, I think your mic might be on computer mic. Make sure your mic is set up. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, Sam, how's it going?
It's going well. Just trying to keep up with all this Photo and Friends Plus conversation. I feel like there's just been an influx of people talking. But outside of that, the sun is shining and yeah, life is good. Life's good. How you doing, Phil?
Good. Yeah, totally good. Felt tropical today, so yep, happy to bring some color to the live stream. But yeah, the Plus group has been great. As most people know, we opened up Photography and Friends Plus for free last week, and it's been awesome. We've gotten, I think, over like 250 new people in there this week, and it's super engaging and lots of great people. In there. So thank you for everyone. I see some people commenting. If you are in Plus, let us know in the comments if you joined. Bob, Nancy, some of our regulars here are definitely in there. And all you have to do is go to photographyandfriends.com/plus and join, and it's completely free. And we'll be walking through some of the photo challenge photos later on. But yeah, just been editing Will's wedding photography course. I recorded a lesson on building or website domains and hosting for wedding photographers that I'm doing myself, and super excited to get that out there. I am working on a course on, which actually is going to be interesting for photographers. This partner who's super an expert at YouTube and social media. We're doing a shorts and reels course, so that'll
Cool.
be cool. That'll be coming out in February. So lots of good stuff happening.
Very cool. Wow. Busy
How's my
month.
mic now? Does my mic sound better?
Yeah, I think that is better. Yeah.
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 Fantastic. Yeah, you've been so busy, Phil. And I mean, I've been having fun with the Photo and Friends Plus now that it's free. There are so many more members in there, so many more photos to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do also like that you can join the supporters section for $5 a month just to help us out, even though the rest of it's free. But I still get the alerts directly to my phone for the supporters section. So I try to respond to those immediately when I get them. So please join. It's fun.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put up a little graphic with our supporters who I need to add one to that.
Look at all the people. We got people from Fort Worth, Texas, the Philippines, Mexico, Monterrey, Buenos Dias, checking out Udemy again, Rhode Island, shooting an XT4, more Fuji users. Get it?
So I'm just gonna shout out to John and Rachel who joined our supporters as supporters. So you get access to that sort of private option in Plus, but and that's just helps us keep the lights on, pays for the platform, and so you can do that. It's only $5 a month, but everyone else gets access to the platform for free and these live streams and all that kind of stuff too. So thank you, John and Rachel, though.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we do a little bit of Q&A first and then get into some photo critiques later on?
Yeah, I'm
Are there any questions that are popping up?
No questions yet, but
no questions. Shoot us your questions.
Oh, I did see a gear question on the Plus group. I don't know if you want to do one of those, but
yeah,
sure, let's go.
It was from Cademan, and it was about metering. And I just feel like metering is something that we don't talk about a whole lot. I don't know if you guys wanted to sort of just discuss metering.
Yes, that's a great idea.
When
I'm
did
gonna
he
bring it
post
up
that?
so people can see it.
It's in the gear section. I think it was from this morning, but
Yeah, I missed it. Okay. Metering is fun, and I've been doing a lot more of it because I've been shooting film. But let's
right,
talk
right.
about metering.
So this is
'Cause
the
I feel
platform
like-
for people who aren't part of Plus. Also,
Right.
FYI, looks like this. Super cool.
Super cool.
So he
when you wanna
basically
read it?
doesn't use metering.
Ah,
So there's basically a few. I mean, we're talking about exposure metering, and there's different options for where your camera is like choosing to base how it exposes. And this is going to be on like any sort of automatic mode, aperture priority, shutter mode, shutter priority, where where your ISO, shutter, or aperture, something is automatically happening in your camera. And so usually there's options for like center spot metering, where it's like just looking at the very center of what's in your camera or in your frame. There's like general, overall metering that kind of looks at the whole thing. I guess when would you change that option from like a general to like more of like a spot focus metering?
I tend to use the spot metering more when I'm trying to create a little bit more contrast, because you can pick the spot on most cameras. I want to like just expose for one very specific area of the frame, and that will expose to that, which would probably disregard every other part of the picture, and thus probably make a more contrasty photo. Because like if you're having someone standing in front of like a window and your spot meter is to the human, the window is going to get blown out because we're raising the exposure for the human. But if you put the spot meter on the window, it's going to expose for the window, which brings everything down, which will make the person be more silhouetted and bring the exposure down. So that would be a reason for spot metering for me. And I do that sometimes during weddings. I would say more often than not, I use the overall spot meter, not spot meter, the overall meter for the entire frame. That's usually the safest bet for me. And sometimes in weddings, my camera in the last year has a highlight protector meter, and that's great because it will just expose it to protect whatever the highlights are in frame. But at times that hurts me creatively because then I can't overexpose things. So it just depends on what you're doing and how you're doing it. I think we do have a lesson on that in the photo masterclass.
We do.
Yeah,
I was gonna actually bring it up. It's
someone posted it.
Oh, someone did. Okay, cool. There's a free. This is one of our free preview lessons as well. If you go to photographyandfriends.com, go to start here, and go to lesson number 8. If anyone wants to dive a little bit deeper into what metering modes there are, and
Oh
you get
man,
a
look at
free
that
lesson
old.
And I will say, like, nowadays, I feel like some of the newer cameras, they have like a highlight weighted. So like basically it'll take overall exposure. It prevents you from overexposing anything. But that, I don't know. I feel like metering has gotten really advanced in most of these newer cameras. I rarely use spot metering or anything. I think at one point you really needed to do that, especially with like shooting film, or if you couldn't rely on the metering, but it's gotten really good these days. So like, Cademan, I don't think you're necessarily doing anything wrong by not selecting different metering modes. Because most of the time, like if you're getting good exposure, that's what matters. Like that's what we're trying to do with metering modes. But like Will said, there's certain times when using different modes can be helpful.
Yeah.
Also, you get into like exposure compensation, and that changes your meter. I don't know if we want to do a deep dive on this. There's probably more questions, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I think check out that lesson on Photography and Friends, and yeah, we can talk more on Plus about it. There's this question about a basic DSLR camera that is a good general question for a lot of people. I'm going to share this link to Will's camera guide that's also on Photography and Friends. If you just go to
needs to be updated.
guides, Yeah, it needs to be updated, but generally, like the line of camera is going to be the same. So if you go to the beginner camera section, we got DSLR cameras, and so any of these like Canon Rebels is a great DSLR to get started with. Even for that $1,000 budget, it looks like you have Prenya. We have like what's the Canon? We have like even the 70D or the 80D or 90D, whatever. What are that line? I can't even remember. I haven't shot with Canon in so long, but check out this
it's like the
guide.
80D
It's got a
and
lot of good
80D,
stuff. 80D
Yeah,
and
and I'm
90D.
going to be working on updating that in the next month. There's not a ton of updates. There's maybe like a couple that came in that are, again, leveling up, and they usually stay around the same price. So
Yeah.
Nancy Zayas had a question about if we use any CRMs for our businesses and what
I do.
our experiences have been. What do you think, Will?
I use two CRMs. I'd say for the business admin side of it, I use a company called 21. Is it 21? I always forget. 17 hats. I couldn't remember how many hats it is, but there's 17 of them. And that CRM allows me to bring in people into the system and like produce contracts, know where I'm at with them as far as like deposits. I post links, location advice, like all that stuff. So 17 hats is really cool. And I've enjoyed it from an administrative side. And I was turned on to it by another wedding photographer, and she uses it for everything, even the calendar structure. It's very powerful, and it's very similar to like Honeybook or I forgot what the third one was. There's three pretty big ones, but 17 hats has been pretty good for me, especially with contract and keeping track of people. The other CRM I use is more photo-based, so Zenfolio is sort of a CRM, but more from a delivering photos aspect of it. And you can create like passwords and links to galleries. And I've been using Zenfolio for probably like over 10 years. And it's been really great for me. It's seen a lot of different iterations of my business. So those are the two that I use. I'm happy to talk more about that, but
does anyone else listening or watching this use something else? I'm curious to see if anyone is using any other platforms or anything like that to help with that kind of thing.
I'd be curious.
Cool. Lots of good stuff. Well,
oh yeah, Dubsado the third one. Sorry.
What was that? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Dubsado is the third CRM that's pretty popular.
Okay, cool.
I've heard good things about all three of them. It just kind of, you can do free trials, and you should try them out.
Yeah. I wanted to mention before we get to any other questions, next week's live stream is going to be awesome. We actually have a guest speaker photographer, Anthony Hurin. He is a wildlife photographer, wedding photographer as well. He does a lot of stuff, but I follow him because he posts these amazing bird photos. Oh, that's his website. Let's go to his Instagram. And he uses Fuji, so I like that. But we'll be talking about all things photography, bird photography, wildlife photography, and that'll be same time next week. So definitely tune in, and it'll be live with the audience. So if you have questions, you can do that. And yeah, so tune in next week. And I got to get my cat who's scratching at the door.
I can't wait to talk to this human about all these photos, especially because they're Fuji and those are wildlife. So that will be fun.
Yeah.
Any other question?
Want to do a couple more questions, and we can start looking at some of the photo challenge submissions from last week.
Yeah.
There's
I
one.
do really quickly want to say to Gianluca, we don't have to get in Leica stuff, but one reason they cost so much is they retain their value. They're handmade. They pay the employees like a very good living wage because they consider making those lenses like artistry, so they get paid really well. And they do limited supply. So, and the fact that they have a legacy name. So those are all the things that serve reasons people can justify charging that much for that stuff.
They're so expensive.
Yeah. But they're not made in a factory. Like they're made, well, they are made in a factory, but they're not made by machines or like anything. They're like little pieces of artwork in themselves. Anywho,
Someone asked about Joe. What's up, Joe? Asked about any lighting setup instructional links on the website. On the Photography and Friends website, I'm not sure if we have a free lesson or not. We definitely have lessons in the masterclass.
Yeah, they're in the masterclass, but they're more like Flash, like very basic based. And there is a advanced videography course, right? Is that what it's called? I do a demo with static light, and that can really translate into photography, as far as like, structure of lighting and what a key light and a fill light and a backlight are. We have been getting bombarded by asking for lighting class and tutorials, and I promise you, I am in the works of developing that as soon as I finish this wedding course.
Yes.
Yes. I think that's the next thing on the list for me. So I promise soon.
Yep, definitely. And one more, which lens is good for product photography and architecture? Ooh, that's a range of things that.
Yeah, those are very different.
I think it would be different lenses, don't you think? I mean, a standard zoom maybe could do both, but what do you think?
Recently for me, I've been using a 14 millimeter for architecture. Was that one of the questions? Yeah. For architecture and real estate. 14 is still pretty wide. So I would say like 16 to 35 zoom is nice for architecture. This is for full frame. And if you really want to get advanced for architecture, it's those tilt shift lenses. So you can correct the lines in the buildings for architecture. But I'd say something wide. Product photography, I tend to stick to like 50-ish. Depends on the product, and it depends on the space that I'm shooting the product in. You have a lot more control with product stuff because if you're in a studio, you can kind of put it on a tripod and position it.
It really depends on the product as well, because if you go with a wider angle lens, like you're sort of distorting, like it's it's really wide. So if you shoot a car with a wide angle lens, it's going to feel a certain way versus a more telephoto one. But if you're taking photos of like a phone, which is much smaller, it might feel different. So, but yeah, I feel like 50 millimeter, just because of you get some of that depth of field still. You can do both like wide shots and also detail shots.
Nice to have a macro lens.
24-70, you could get away with both of those.
Yes,
maybe. Yeah, on a full frame for sure for architecture.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to jump into this question really quick before we go to the challenges, because it kind of is another lens related question. And this question, I know you're watching on Facebook. I can't tell who it is because our system doesn't show your name. If you're watching on Facebook or my channel or Will's channel, try to head over to the Photography and Friends YouTube channel and watch the live stream there. And subscribe there, because eventually we're not going to be streaming on all the different places, and that just helps us know who's talking. But street photography lenses, what's your general street photography lens that you are carrying around nowadays?
Typically it's been my Leica Q2, which has a fixed 28 millimeter on it. For a long time, it'd be a 35 millimeter lens I'd carry around on my Sony. As of late, I've been walking around with an 80 millimeter though. I think having a bit more of that. Well, okay, sorry. It's an 80 millimeter on medium format, so it's closer to a 50 millimeter on a full frame. But having that
closer to like what on across like my 35.
Yeah. But
really a 28.
But having that crop is or that shallower depth of field, I think shooting wide I think is great for street photography, but I like a more telephoto lens these days. I think it's a bit more my style. But I also think, for me, I think street photography, having a prime is a great thing to have. I think they're smaller, they're lighter weight, they're more discreet. And it also forces you to move. It's not that you're just zooming in and out while you go and do street photography, which I think is a big part of it. At least for me, that's how I like to approach it. But,
yeah. I mean, I was going to say that I have really enjoyed this tiny little 35 millimeter lens that I've put on my Fuji. just because it's one form factor, super small, easy to carry around,
Yeah.
and it's a nice, for me, focal length where I can get the nice portrait of a person if I want, something a little closer up, but get the sort of not necessarily wide shot, but get the full story as well. For a long time, my favorite lens carrying around was the 16 millimeter, again on my crop, so that's probably closer to like a 30-ish on a full frame, but really liking this one a lot. I do find with this lens that I pull out my iPhone, which has the wide angle lens, quite a bit if I want that wide shot. But yeah, for higher quality stuff, I like this one.
I've been using what Sam was talking about earlier, the 28 on a full frame Q2 camera. That's my go-to street lens. But part of the reason why is it's 28 millimeter on a full frame. That's an f1.4 if I need it, but it's also 47 megapixels. So I can shoot at 28, but I can also crop in to get like a closer shot if I need to. And it's such a I was just talking, I had a coffee meeting with another photographer this morning, and we were talking about how disarming these smaller cameras are for street photography and for behind the scenes stuff. And it really creates like a mood when you have a smaller sort of street camera. Pluses and minuses, not as Sam's about to pull out his giant medium format camera.
Walking around with this has been a bit of a thing. I have some professional jobs like traveling this year, and I'm really like debating if I can use the iPhone or phone to. It's just a big setup, but
yeah, but it looks amazing. If you go to, is it in the supporter section on Photo and Friends Plus? You posted a couple. They're awesome.
I have a lot more I should be posting. I'll share some more photos of it.
Please.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Shout out to anyone who's joining Plus right now. Jessica, I see you just became a member, so thank you for heading over to Plus. It's really where we're dedicating our focus on support, and it's a great community of friends to be there. It's free to join, so do it.
And Max asked if we use any manual focus lenses. I was shooting a lot with manual focus lenses, and still do on my film camera. I've switched systems on my digital stuff, but yeah, you absolutely use manual focus lenses. You move a little bit slower. It's a little bit different of a process, but still get very professional shots with it.
If you head over to my YouTube channel, the most recent video I posted was shooting with a manual lens on a Leica SL2, and I talk about how it slows me down to do some street photography. I've also been doing some studio portraits on my 1994 used Hasselblad and using manual focus, and boy, is it not easy. But
yeah, and you sent us a couple of tests of those. Those look awesome. So
man, I have so many portraits to show you guys, and I'll probably post them. I'll post a couple in the Photo and Friends Plus here in the next week, and then I'll post more of a demo in the supporter section maybe. Good reason to support for $5 a month.
Yeah. Well, I know there's lots of more questions for anyone who's watching right now. Hit that like button. It helps us know you're enjoying this. Looks like we've got 59 viewers live. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the people watching the replay. Let's head into Plus and look at the challenge from last week and this week, which is patterns. So if you've been following us, we started our weekly photo challenge series again, and the first theme was patterns. Every Monday we'll be posting a new one, so stay tuned. I have lots of fun ones scheduled out for the rest of the year. And as part of it, we want to just go through some of our photos that were submitted and do actual critiques to, give some praise and everything, but also help you improve your photography as well. So I'm just going to scroll through sort of at random and pull some, and we can talk about them. I'm going to stop on this very first one just to say thank you to Kenneth for being the very first person to submit to this challenge.
I love that one.
Very cool edit, though, of these Venetian blinds, which, this photo without the crazy edit, I don't know if it would have been as interesting. So for me, the editing really makes this a cool photo.
I like the repetitive nature of it, but also it changes, right? It's like a gradient of repetitiveness. And I think to notice that in your image And also talk about rule of thirds here.
And straight lines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of good photography tips going on in this photo.
So very cool. Kenneth. All right. It's so hard to go at random. I'm just scrolling down. This is pretty
Yeah, you
cool.
should just go from top down. Love the patterns in there. I would actually, like, from a critique perspective, I would love to have seen this closer, like cropped
Yeah, just
in.
cropped
so the
in.
whole frame is
Yeah.
just the pattern.
Mhm.
I think it would be a little bit more impactful.
Yeah,
I always think you can never get close enough.
I agree. All right, let's see. Oh, this is pretty cool. Bob's here, so thank you for posting. From a car window in a car wash.
Oh, fun.
Colors are pretty cool with that one. I dig it.
Yeah, I like the colors.
Very abstract.
Don't you always see that when you go get your car washed in a car wash like that? It's always so fun.
Yeah, I took my kids once thinking they were like 2-year-olds or 3-year-olds, thinking, oh, this is gonna be so fun. They're gonna go in the dude. They were screaming, and we were
they
trapped
terrified,
in
or-
the middle.
Yeah.
Like it just started, and I turned around. I'm like, we're in the car wash, thinking like they were gonna be all excited, and then little Felix and Julian, their faces just like pure horror, and I'm like just screaming at the top of their lungs. Oh my gosh! And they never want to go back since. So
Oh,
yeah. All right, I'm doing the Wheel of Fortune, scrolling down a bit longer. Zuleika Santiago posted this one. This is pretty cool pattern behind these flowers, and
Super creative.
really cool edit. I talked about this when I did my little behind the scenes vlog. If you haven't seen it, it's on my YouTube channel doing this patterns challenge. I talked about how it's kind of cool to get a photo where it combines an actual subject with just the strict pattern itself. I was trying to kind of do that. Lee Ben Jr., you got to run. See ya. Bye.
Thanks for being here.
But yeah, I really like this one.
yeah.
Cool silhouette.
I think combining sort of the curved lines of the plant with the very like symmetrical, harder lines or linear lines.
Mhm.
It's a really nice juxtaposition. Like without either one of those, it wouldn't be quite as dynamic. But having both, it really pops.
Yeah. And black and white contrasty edit, I think helps a lot too. Maximiliano.
I think Max
Monterrey,
is
Mexico.
well.
Oh, this is super cool. Lots of patterns going on.
Yeah. I love how the
great.
lighting like creates all that going on. That's something you can like live in.
Yeah,
Oh, I could zoom in. That's great.
that's really
Yeah, that's
I'm-
cool. I think this could be a part of like a series where it's like you could have chosen to just take a photo of like the patterns on these stairs or just this like glass work on the ceiling, but kind of a cool combo just seeing the whole thing.
I feel like you could put a like model in yellow on those steps, and it would just be such a cool like location to do a portrait or something.
Yeah.
I really love the tones and the colors there.
Yeah. Cool. All right. We had a good number of people who submitted photos this week. Nancy, one of our founding members in Photography and Friends Plus. Ooh, that's cool. Looks like one
Yeah,
of
I
those,
like that.
garden decoration spinny thingies.
This is also what I'm talking about you can never get too close. Like this is nice. You fill the frame with the pattern.
Mhm.
There's a focal point in the center, and it really creates that vibe, that feeling.
Yeah.
Pattern reproduction.
Nice. Nancy has some amazing photography dealing with owls in the desert where she lives, and she's talked to us about putting out a book. So Nancy, if you're listening, more people are interested in that, and hopefully that's going well, and hopefully you've organized your photos, something we talked a lot about in Plus. So yeah. All right, this is cool. A little pattern going on with all these bowling
Bolero.
I haven't been
The
bowling in a while,
bowling
but the bowling ball thingies.
Return.
Yeah, return.
That's cool.
That's
I
cool.
like the longer shutter too. You could see the movement in the people. I wonder if that was on a tripod because
Yeah,
that
I was
looks pretty
wondering.
good.
T6, great. must have been on a tripod, I
If
think.
it's not on a tripod, that's pretty solid hands.
Yeah. I know some
It-
of,
it
these
could
new
be like on
cameras
the
have
chair.
the internal stabilization, but
Oh yeah.
I don't think the Rebel does. Yeah, again, it's like you could have cropped in just a little bit, gotten a little closer to these things, but it's nice.
Yeah, I love the lighting of that.
Yeah, that was cool. All right. Classic pattern. This is something I would have photographed if I saw this.
I think it's again with a lot of these, it's like there's definitely a pattern there, and it's sort of filling the frame a bit more. Like I feel like we could have probably cropped in a little bit, or like
Mhm.
focused on either the boards down below, or
Yeah.
just had a little bit less of the sides. But yeah, great. I mean, I love the lines going away and then the lines going across. It's a fun pattern there.
I think I would have, like cropped a little lower because you can see
Yeah.
a little bit much of the top. It's like I kind of want to what's up? I want to tilt up a little bit. So yeah, like you said, like either just crop in or tilt down or something like that. But
Yeah.
cool. Oh, this is a cool portrait. Great patterns on her clothing and in the background on the wall.
Patterns. I would add just a tiny. Well, I don't know. I'm just thinking more
It's a little
contrast, but it's hard to tell through the live. Yeah, through the live feed.
It's a little dark in her
Quality-wise.
eyes. I don't know. That's a style maybe, but
Yeah.
kind of want to be able to see those windows into her soul a little bit better.
Still good expression and patterns though.
Sharon posted this one. This is cool. That's a cool bike.
Ooh,
Look at
yeah.
that cargo bike, man. He's hauling a lot of stuff.
So, Brad, how do you ride that thing?
That's one of those I don't know. It's like what's that called?
Is this London?
Fiat?
Where
I
is
don't-
this?
It looks
Based
like
on the
London,
bus.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, they got these cargo bikes where they've got like a whole cargo section in the front, and then the wheel is in front of it. But I've never ridden one of these, but
That's
they're
cool.
I
kinda
tried
cool.
putting
They're
my dog in one of those, and it's tricky. It's tricky to get used to it, especially because it has like a little engine in it, so you get moving pretty
Yeah.
quickly, and yeah, it definitely takes some getting used to.
What
I
do you
like
think
that
about?
they.
Oh God.
Yeah, I like that they included the environment around this pattern,
Mhm.
right? Because I think it makes the pattern more striking when you just see life
Mhm.
around it. I think
Yeah.
what you're about to say maybe is like cropping in maybe like a tad.
I was gonna say, yeah, what do you think about just cropping out the top, like the sky? So I don't know, it just would be like the whole pattern would make up the whole top of the photo. I like seeing everything, the environment, but
So yeah, I like seeing the
Maybe.
bike. And the only things that bother me is that fire hydrant in the bottom right, and I could lose that building on the right. But again, then
yeah,
you'd
maybe
lose
just
the
crop it
bike.
this way.
Yeah, maybe just crop it in the side and do like a 1x1. But this pattern in front of the environment, I think is fun. And I know I'd say also though, there would be a reason to get closer and just show the building and nothing else as like a pattern. But obviously artistic
Yeah.
choice.
Or just the big red bus right here. There are lots of options. And if you were shooting on a
Right.
medium format camera, you would have so many options.
That's funny.
All right, let's go through a few more. Julie. I missed the beach. This is a cool pattern on the
Me
ground.
too.
Yeah, you're so far from the ocean, Will, now.
Very weird.
Oh,
I
God.
feel very landlocked. I do like that pattern in the sand. Again, I'd love to see it tighter. But
Maybe a
it
little
does
more contrasty.
yeah, a little more contrasty. Maybe a tad bit more saturation, but good recognition in the pattern
Yeah.
and the gradients. Right? It's your eyes go from below and follow all the way up to the wave, which is a really good moment when the wave is at its crest
Yeah.
as it's about to come down, which is very cool. So yeah, maybe not closer.
Let's see if we have any more. Oh, what is this? Oh, this is a crazy edit. Like Andy
Well, I don't even know
Warhol.
what's going on here. What is that?
It is
Are those
an
Easter eggs?
egg slicer.
Multiple
bear.
times? Oh, I see. It's an egg slicer. It's an egg about to get sliced.
Yeah, yeah, egg about to get sliced, and they just arranged it in this cool pattern. That's cool.
There's
Cool effect.
there's a yolk somewhere in here. Yeah, you liked it, Sam.
This is
Oh, wow.
talking about getting close. This is a great example of that.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Fill the frame with everything, a little bit more impactful. I wish it was just a tad bit more centered.
Mhm.
Like it's very minute, but tad more centered, and maybe it's my monitor, but it could be like a little bit brighter.
Cool. Well, if you're watching and we did not look at your photo, just chat us really quick in the comments, and we'll try to look at your photo. I want to make sure we get to you if you're listening live. But also, I want to see comments saying, I will take part in next week's photography challenge. So, these are easy, fun challenges, and it's meant to go out and practice your photography, do something brand new, and not just find an old photo, which is okay, but we want this to be inspiring. So, give us a little wave, a like, a shout out in the comments if you plan to take part in next week's challenge. And I forget what next week's challenge
Have
is.
you posted it yet?
It's going to be it'll go live on Monday. So,
Right.
which I might,
I'm into that.
yeah, it'll go live on Monday. Although it might be fun to post them a little earlier to give people a little bit more time. But
Maybe Sunday evening.
Ryan taking part, heck yeah. Go give Ryan a follow on Instagram or wherever because he's taking part.
That's a good thing. I'm excited. We should get out there and do some
Jessica.
participation.
I know. Well, that's what I would love to do that. Bob, what's up? Everyone.
I'm new to your
Shoot
page.
bomb.
Welcome. Should we
Awesome.
answer more questions? What's
Yeah,
up next?
let's
How much
answer
time we
more
got?
questions.
20 minutes?
I got a question from the Photo and Friends again.
Yeah.
That I think is kind of interesting. Do you guys think photo contests are still a thing, or have they been replaced by social media?
I had a response to that.
Yeah.
My thought was like I was comparing it to film festivals and how like when we graduated from film school, the way to get your independent video out into the world or film was to put it to like a festival and go that route. And YouTube, Vimeo, these platforms were just getting started, but it still wasn't like the main place. It was like the afterthought. You would go through the film festivals and then you would post online for everyone to see later.
Right.
Nowadays, like YouTube, people post these cinematic high quality films straight to YouTube and they don't even think about film festivals. But that being said, I think that actually makes putting your films out to festivals less competitive. And I haven't done this since, I don't know, the Anthony Carbajal documentary like 6 years ago now. But like back then it was relatively, I mean, that was a good film, but it was relatively simple to get that into some festivals. So it costs a little bit of money, but the idea of like putting your photos out there to contests, I think it might still be great and less competitive than even it used to be, because most people are just posting their photos straight to Instagram or whatever. And there's no exclusivity. I don't think with contests necessarily you can't post your photos online before you submit to a contest. But my anecdotal assumption is that photo contests, the old kind of style, are less competitive nowadays.
I mean, I think there's still space for it. And I think if you're out there taking photos, I mean, even our weekly challenges, it's just a reason to like some of these contests either have cash prizes or they're, have like gear that you can win or whatever. But it's forcing yourself to get the image that's going to compete with other people that you're proud of and get it out there. And like just that process alone, I think will push your photography, which is great. So part of the question was like, how do you know if a contest is legit or not? And I think a lot of times like, looking at the sponsors, and if like it's a Nikon or a Sony sponsored photo contest, I mean, people from those companies might see it and it could lead to discussions with people that really enjoy your work. So I think it's definitely worth it to put it out there, and just push yourself a little bit. I will say I've really enjoyed. I very lightly go on 500 pix or 500 px, um, and they have a ton of stuff going on there, but they do contests as well, and I think it's sort of a fun space to just see what other people are doing, get inspiration, but also try and um, push yourself with your images as well. So I'm all about it. I think it's still a great thing to do, and not just trying to get likes on Instagram from your photography, but
Yeah.
yeah, get them into something else. We actually just submitted a music video to some festivals, and
Oh,
it
yeah?
just got its first one. Yeah, which is super random, but it's kind of cool to
It's so
yeah.
fun to go and see,
Yeah.
be a part of that community and stuff like that.
Yeah.
See it on the big
Yeah, it really
screen.
is like community. It's like a different experience entirely with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, we have to show Gianluca's pattern photo. Gianluca, one of our founding members, saw this. We skipped over this one. I liked the story behind ISO 25600,
You can't even
25,000,
tell. Yeah.
and it came out pretty clean and really cool creative pattern here that came out with this edit and at the opera. Very, very cool.
I love the idea of the pattern of the structure, but the randomness of the people.
yeah.
And obviously, like it's very black and white. My style, I dig a lot, but I think that that's like such a beautiful photo. Very
Yeah.
cool, John Luca. And again, like you can't even tell that it's that high of an ISO. I mean, at least on my screen.
Yeah,
And
no,
in
I
photo
think
as
the
well.
edit and it works.
Really great shot.
Someone asked what our Instagram names are, so I'm posting all of ours if you want to follow us. Will, are you William Carnahan?
I am William Carnahan, just my full name.
Okay.
It's a lot of letters.
Yeah, so you can follow us. We do not have a Photography and Friends Instagram, but Video School Online is our overall brand. Which brings up a question that was posted about, let me get rid of Gianluca's beautiful photo, about the Vero app. We talk about Instagram a lot here.
Boy.
Victor asks about Vero. My short answer is like, I don't know. There's lots of reasons not to like Instagram. And my thought about Vero is that like it was the flavor of the week for a week, and I haven't heard anything about it since like a month ago. And so there's a lot of risk in switching your eggs to a different basket. I mean, I think any of these apps, if you use Vero, if you dedicate yourself to 500 pics, if you switch to Flickr, if you dedicate yourself to posting on that platform regularly, you can have a lot of success. But in terms of like, I think maybe the question is Vero the new Instagram? Should we all move to Vero? I don't know, and I don't think I don't know, but I don't necessarily think so. Even though I hate Instagram for what it is.
I was so into Vero for like a solid week and excited about it and like got on all the buzz, but it's really fallen off. Instagram's great, but honestly, like even like Photo and Friends, like the whole point is to have a community around photography.
Yeah.
I think Photo and Friends is like doing that. Instagram's great for what it is, but it's always going to be a public Twitter. Like, it's like, it's fine. And it does get me a lot of like contacts and network, and I meet people in my local community, which I think is like good. And you tag clients and like, it's great. But Vero, I don't know. I really wanted Vero to take off, but it didn't have those legs afterwards for some reason.
Yeah.
I agree I agree. It's like, give your time and energy to whatever it is and build, your portfolio. But I do also strongly believe that like any social media should be sort of a means to send someone to your website or for someone to contact you about your work. And that like an Instagram or a Flickr or a 500 pics, like they can show your work, but I think you should still have a website that's like your curated. If you're wanting to do it professionally, like you should still be sending people to your website that's your professional portfolio. Um, that's removed from social media. Because yeah, I mean, constantly connecting with people on social media, but if I really want, and if I end up working with someone, typically it's going to go to my website. It's not going to be just based off of my Instagram feed. So
Yeah.
Right.
it's sort of a stepping stone, I guess, to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what we've talked a lot about that in Plus over the past year. But having your own dedicated website where you have control of it's long term is super important for photographers who want to get work. And yeah, for the long run. There was a question earlier about using curves and levels on a MacBook. Janine, are you using Lightroom or another app? Regardless, it's generally going to be very similar in terms of how you use the tool. We have pretty advanced stuff in our Lightroom class. So I have, if you're on Udemy, if you're a member of Video School online, there's a class on the tone curve, and let's see, where are we? Somewhere in here. Lesson, it's in one of these first sections about tone curve, levels, all of that, exposure adjustments. So if you haven't taken this course, definitely take it. That's a great place to start. If you have follow-up questions, you want more advanced stuff, let us know. But yeah, that. I'll leave a link for that class in the description as well. Discounted. Janine says, no Lightroom. I'm a painter spending time only painting. But you're editing your photos how?
Well, you can use curves and levels in Photoshop too.
Yeah.
What else? We got another question. Oh, you have the power to put them on the screen.
Yeah. Is there one you see though, or are you seeing the?
Yeah, the Lillian Vargas. Hi, I'm new to photography and I struggle to practice outside because I feel my camera is not very discreet, and in my town it's not common to see photographers. Any tips to overcome the nerves? You know who's really good at that? Sam. Sam is really good about carrying his big camera around and just going for it. And I think, I don't know, from my perspective, like you kind of just have to go for it. It's like jumping in on the deep end in a way. But also if you're shooting people, or I'm sorry, if you're photographing people, you should be, like put your camera down and talk to them, or, create like a relationship first before you stick your camera up in people's faces. And I think that that's a valuable thing. And honestly, the more you walk around with your camera and don't take photos, the more people will get used to you being around. And that I think is a thing too. Developing a relationship in your local area about who you are and what you like to do is I think the best tip that I can probably give.
I also think like, especially if you're in a place where photographers aren't common, I think being a photographer that, a lot of my friends expect me to have a camera with me when I come around. It's become sort of normal that I just have a camera with me. And I think just sort of owning that, and that you're a photographer and you're going to walk around with your camera. Now, that also means being smart about it. If you're walking around at night, maybe have a bag and don't always have it out necessarily if you don't feel comfortable with that. Like you have to sort of just know what's going to be safe for you in terms of that, but also like be aware of your surroundings, or have a friend with you if it's in a place that you don't know necessarily. And then, like Will said, it is about just being a person, and this camera is a tool that, like, be a person first. If you want to take a photo of someone, like, talk with them, engage them. They're not there for your art, but you can engage with them and see if they're willing to let you do that with them. And sometimes you might get rejected, and sometimes they might be fine with it. I've typically found people that want to get photographed, it's because I engage with them, and it's a more casual thing, and it's not like this big deal. But if it's landscapes or architecture or candids, just being out there and taking thousands of photos and getting comfortable is the only thing you can really do. It's just you got to get out and take the photos. So yeah.
Yep. I think that's a constant goal for all of us to be more confident in doing photography and asking people for us to be able to take their photos and stuff. So it's not something you're going through alone.
Also, just really quick, if you do, like, if you're taking photos in your town, like a place that you know very well, decide, maybe without a camera, walk around and decide an image you want to get. Decide that you want to get sunrise with the river going through your town or something. And then just go and get that photo one morning. And just sort of like, you can create photos in your mind or as you walk around, and then like go and do and achieve that. And then take photos along the way. But at least you sort of have this thing like, oh, I'm going to wake up for sunrise to get that photo.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to stay up to get the stars over the church in town, or whatever it is. But I think sometimes having that sort of like image you're going after can help you then just be out there taking photos at the very least, without sort of aimlessly not knowing why you're out there taking photos.
Yeah, that's great point. Bob, thank you for being a member of Photography and Friends Plus. We're happy that we opened it up and you're enjoying it. And we appreciate you being there. So everyone else join. Speaking of which, but Sam, Will, and I had the idea of doing a podcast or continuing our podcast. We've started a couple. We had like a beginner podcast. We also have the Close Focus podcast, which is mostly interviewing other photographers. We're also toying with the idea of somehow putting this live stream on as a podcast for people who like that kind of consumption model. But if you're interested in listening to a podcast that we do, what would you like in a podcast that would be different than what we do here? Or is there something we could add to the live stream that would make it a more interesting podcast? I want to hear from you all listening to this. So let us know in the comments. We've got questions though.
Let's get at them. Pitter patter.
Okay, this is a good question. Jessica asks, best places to find clients.
Ooh.
Everywhere.
Local, your local area, local groups, it depends on what you want to do. If you're, this is online places, but still, if you're doing like family photos, family portraits, that kind of stuff, holiday photos, local social media groups. Another thing that I've seen work really well, one for one of our founding members in Plus, Christina, as well as something I've done and I've seen people do in our local schools, is doing a fundraiser, offering your photography services as a fundraiser for schools, where you can either do like family photos or photos with Santa, if that's something you celebrate or whatever. You offer your services, your school gets to raise a bunch of money. It doesn't have to be your school, any school in your area. And then you build this connection with families and who potentially hire you to do other things. And if you want to be a long-term photographer making money, building that connection with individual families is the way to do it. And you'll just keep getting asked year after year to come back and take photos. So that's my number one tip right now.
I think my number one. Sorry, Sam. Go ahead. Okay. My number one tip would definitely be like friends of friends. And that's usually how I like kind of got started, is like, if you take some photos for some friends for free, you can use Instagram to have them tag it, but like, it builds on that, right? Friends of friends, and like networking the people that are closest to you is like a really good way to start.
I think the biggest thing is that you're taking photos, and whether it's, and then sharing those. And so for online, at least, you're probably sharing on social media or Flickr or whatever it is, but it's, as much as you can connect with other people, or you can use hashtags, or you can use whatever, so that people find your photography in your community or in your area. you have to be taking photos though, and that's kind of like the rub of it, of like, to get new clients you have to be working with old clients, and then it keeps growing on top of itself. But another big tip there is like, every client that you have today could lead to 10, 20, however many clients in the future. So being that person that's easy to work with, being that person that takes good photos, being that person that people enjoy working with. And like that question earlier, if I walk around with my camera, someday someone will eventually be like, oh wait, you do photography, right? Like, I need a photographer, and they'll think of you for that. And that's like, honestly, that's how I got one of my biggest gigs, was someone was like, oh, you do documentary, right? Yeah, like, we have this thing we want you to do. And then it went on for 3 years. So being out there doing that kind of thing is the biggest thing. Like, you have to be taking photos and getting people to see those photos, which, however that is online.
Yeah.
Solid advice, Sam.
Great stuff. And reach out to local businesses too, in your downtown area. I know you're asking about downtown or online, but you can do that online, but see if they need product photography for their website or anything. I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah. And that's where having a portfolio to share your work is huge.
Yeah. Lots of people saying they like the interviews with other photographers. I think that's probably what people want most in a podcast. And maybe that's what we focus on, is trying to get more interviews here live. That can also be a podcast potentially.
Yeah.
So we got a few more minutes. Let's get through a couple last questions. This is Nancy has a good one. Just for us, do we have any fun creative projects in the works for you guys? So I know you guys are busy in the upcoming months with projects. Can you share kind of some of the stuff you're actually working on?
I have, excuse me, I have a doc series that I'm going to be working on about these nonprofits, but it's mostly video stuff. It's not a lot of photography. On the photography side, I have been using my old Hasselblad 1994 Hasselblad to shoot some studio portraits. I've been testing that out with a digital back and a film back. And so those I'm still editing and working on, and I'd like to share those very soon. And that I'm really excited about because it'll lead into more lighting courses. And I've just been doing a lot of like really fun, more interesting headshots for people in my area, which has led to more and more work. And I don't have to leave my house. I can just have people come over.
That's awesome.
That's cool. On one side, I just became a homeowner, which I'm very excited about. And because we're in winter right now, we have a lot of like fruit trees and different plant life. And I think sort of documenting for me, come the spring especially, sort of just watching the land and seeing it change will be sort of a fun project for me. Professionally speaking, though, have a trip to Nepal later this year, which I'm really excited for, doing both documentary, video, and photography work. Been out to Kathmandu before, but really just the people and the street photography and the architecture, I love visiting that place. And then also going to Micronesia with a group of marine biologists, and really excited because they actually want to do some professional portraiture. So I'm actually going to get to sort of like get people to, it's sort of Polynesian culture, so people sort of dressed up and trying to figure out like, for the fishermen, like, can we do a portrait but out in the water, and for the maybe the like leader of the community do a very formal like regal photo, and like try and like come up with some fun creative stuff there. But it's kind of trying to figure out what I can travel out there with, and doing video on top of it. So those are the two big ones I'm really excited for right now.
Cool. Awesome. That's always fun stuff. Yes, we are still out in the field doing professional work, and a lot of my time is mostly spent on making sure the courses, the platforms, the online education is running. But kind of back to like the Instagram, Vero, where do we post our photos question. I've talked about this quite a bit recently in the Plus community, but I started a little mini side project, more of like a blog about the new city that I'm in, and it's just an excuse for me to get out there, take my camera with me, and have a place to post those photos. I'm not even ready to share it with the world right now, and it's just really a place for personally that I'm writing and putting photos out, and it's been so far a great practice and just being more creative and having a place that I don't have to worry about, you know, how many people are looking at the photos, if I'm getting likes or anything, but it's a place where I can like have my photos live. Another actually really cool thing, kind of a project, is I mean, I've talked to you guys about this. I got reached out to by this company called Sol Digital. Have you heard of this place? It's like a photo printing website, Sol Digital, and they're sponsoring I'm redoing my office, and they sponsored some prints. So I have a ton of prints being printed right now, like metal prints, canvas prints, high quality poster, gallery style prints. And so I'll be decorating my office and the house with a lot of those prints. And so that'll be super cool.
Looks like
I've
they
never
do
heard
photo
about-
books too.
Yeah, they do photo books. So it'll be a good test to see the quality compared to other places that I normally print things out at, like Costco
I
or
feel-
Shutterfly or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen them at there's a convention called WPPI that usually goes on in Vegas, and I think I've seen them there before. It's a big, like, what's called Wedding and Portrait Photographer International. It's a big convention for those types of photographers, and they do a lot of like wedding books for pros.
Yeah.
That's very cool, man.
Yeah, so I'll be doing a big YouTube video about redesigning my home office and prints and stuff coming up soon.
Yeah, we all need to get our offices in shape.
Yeah.
Phil, you're way farther along than
Yeah.
Samurai.
Well, yeah. Anyways, let's hit like 2 more questions if we can. I think we got 2 more. This is a good one for you, Will. What advice would you give before my first session with a model?
That is a good one. I think it depends on what kind of modeling photos you're doing. If you're just doing headshots or you're doing like more interesting like art stuff, I would say that just be prepared to talk to them first. Again, this kind of goes back to like walking around with your camera. I've found that like just building a sort of relationship with them, see how they feel, get the vibe before you bring up your camera to your eye is very important. And what I tend to do too is like start to think about poses, right? Like maybe practice on yourself in the mirror. Like I know it sounds so cheesy, but like tell yourself to like, you know, tilt your chin down, bring your left shoulder towards you, and start to develop that sort of like second nature for yourself so that you can use that on your model and find what looks best on them, because it is different for everybody. So I think just be prepared to like talk to them and slow down before taking photos, and try to come up with poses beforehand. If you're using a model that has modeled before, that's a little less important because they'll automatically do it. But I've photographed so many people that aren't models, so knowing how to pose them is something you should already be prepared for to make them feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably just as nervous as you are. So
Yeah, for sure. Usually that's the case.
Yeah, totally. There was a question on advice on selling prints. Jessica asked, best tips for selling prints. This is one we've gotten asked before. I feel like maybe we should save this for another longer conversation, but any initial advice?
I guess it's sort of the difference between trying to sell online versus sell in a store. I've gone to like local community cafes and little shops and asked if they'd be interested in putting up my prints. I think a lot of community spots will do sort of, they cycle artists each month kind of thing. And that's a great way to get people to actually, there's a physical print they can buy. You put a price on it, they can buy it that way. The other way is to do it online, which I think is a bit trickier unless you really push it consistently or have a social media following or whatever it is. But that's a way that people can find your work at least. And I think if you do it online, you just have to be set up for it. So, websites like Squarespace or whatever have like the option where you can sell prints through it and do that kind
Yeah.
of thing. But yeah, it's really cool when people want to buy your print, but it can be hard unless you're doing the physical prints in a shop for people to find it, I feel like, and actually want to print it. Like, I think there's such a thing of sitting there with a physical print and being like, oh yeah, this would look great, versus a little thumbnail on a website being like, oh yeah, let's get a 4 foot or 3 foot or however big print of this, and you don't really know. And I feel like it's less common that people do that. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's not easy, but definitely practice like getting your stuff printed and seeing how you like it and seeing what it looks like big. That's a good place to start.
Everyone should print their photos. Photos are meant to be printed, and they're meant to be printed big, and it's the best thing in the world to see your photo printed really big. Print
Photos are meant to be seen on my tiny little phone, and that's the only
and then
place I want to see
forgotten
them.
forever.
And then forgotten about
No,
immediately.
that's why I'm so excited. I've got so many photos coming from this company, and they had like this option for soundproofing canvases. So I have these like soundproof panels behind me, but I'm like,
Oh,
that's
cool.
cool. You could print a photo on a canvas, and the whatever how they make it, it's also soundproofing. That's like
How
awesome
do I
for creators like
find
us.
that?
Yeah, so I'll be sharing that soon. But we are going to be closing out in just a second, but I just wanted to say head over to photographyandfriends.com. You can find out lots of stuff there, or go to plus.photographyandfriends.com. You can check out what our community looks like. It's really active right now. We've got people posting a ton of stuff every day. So I saw someone ask about that earlier on. So definitely check it out. I also want to say shout out to, I do not have the graphic anymore, but to John and Rachel, who are supporters. So you can become a supporter for $5 a month. It helps us out by paying for the platform, encouraging us to do the live streams every week. All the
I do
hosting
have the notifications on for supporters too. So if you
Yeah.
post in the supporter section, we make those priority to look at as soon as we can.
Yeah, so you get access to this space down here, which you don't get access to for free. And that's just a sort of a way to support us. But otherwise, just join Plus. I also switch. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to post the upcoming weekly challenge early
Look at
for
you.
Plus members. So Saturday mornings, or we might change this, but coming up Saturday morning, or no, tomorrow, Friday, we are going to post next week's challenge early. So you get a little extra time if you're a member, and those all pop up here on the photo challenges space. So tomorrow, if you're a member, you'll get notified for what next week's challenge is early. So, and we'll do that ongoing. So check that out. We hope you participate. Any other things, guys?
Really quick follow-up to that printing thing. I think you said her name was Jessica, but she just printed her first photo, and someone asked how much she would charge. I would just do it by how much did it cost you to print that photo, how much did it cost you to frame it, and at the very base, make your money back. From there,
start, yeah.
You can sort of decide how much money you want to make off of it. It's great, obviously, if it can make you some money, but also, you want people to buy it. So it's a tough game to play, but I love the idea that my photography is out there in people's homes. And most of the time, like, so long as I can maybe, get dinner that night or get, a drink off of it, like, that's great. But don't lose money on it. Don't be selling your photography and having to pay extra for someone to get it. Like, cover the cost of printing, cover the cost of shipping, cover the cost of the frame. And then, whatever you're comfortable with on top of that.
Find that number that Sam's talking about. Take 5% of that, or 10% or 20%, and add that on to how much you're going to sell it for. And then you can discover which percentage you feel comfortable at. Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it 20? Is it 50? Is it 200? You just got to take that number and find the percentage. and find out.
And then create a spreadsheet and figure out how much money you've spent on all your camera
Oh,
gear
boy.
and how much prints you'd have to
Time.
sell to make that money back to then buy the new camera in a few years when you're selling lots of them.
It never stops.
Sorry.
Join us next week. We're going to be interviewing photographer Anthony Huron, wildlife photographer, wedding photographer, and I think Bob mentioned, don't forget the beginners. There's a vacuum going on. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but yes, we are finding photographers who are not 1 million follower plus photographers. We might find those too, but we want to find photographers who are in the beginning stages as well, because I remember with photography, videography, teaching online classes, all of that, running a business, like hearing those beginner stories is much more beneficial, I find. So I think Anthony's a great person who fits that mold, and that'll be next week at this time. So hope to see you all there. All right, hit that like button, subscribe on Photography and Friends if you're not already, so you get these live.
Like.
Comment, share it with a friend, and most importantly, we'll see you in Photography and Friends Plus to continue these conversations throughout the week.
Go take photos. I expect updates from everyone that we answered questions to. You know, I want to hear how these things go. I want to hear about selling that first print. I want to hear about being out in your community more, taking photos. Like, let's keep these conversations going. These don't have to be one-offs. These can be, you know, continued conversations between all of us. So
absolutely.
And let's hold Sam accountable. I want to see some of those photos from that medium format camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. You too, Will.
And more
You too,
of
Will.
those, yeah,
We're
portraits.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Well, nice to see you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye,
Love
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Love you all. Bye. See you soon next week. Peace.
Ciao.